thank you everyone for coming this morning to our second large solar meeting here at the diocese. I'm Mark Fisher. I'm the Chief Financial Officer here at the Diocese of San Diego. And I'd like us to start with the diocesan prayer. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord Jesus, through the intercession of our patron saints, San Diego and Our Lady of Refuge, we beg you for an outpouring of the Holy Spirit upon all of us called to be your disciples and members of your church. Bless us to be obedient servants as you were obedient in loving response to the Father's love, and to love one another as you have first loved us. Bless us with happy marriages and holy families, with bishops, religious, deacons, and priests, to image your presence among us, and with dedicated lay people, both married and single, to be signs of your love in the world. Help us to embrace the mission you have entrusted to us in lives of fidelity, holiness, and compassion. San Diego, pray for us. Our Lady of Refuge, pray for us. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Okay, so this morning we're going to have a couple different presentations we're going to go through. The first presentation is going to be by San Diego Gas and Electric. And then the second presentation is going to be by Renewal and Tretech Americas. So we're going to start with San Diego Gas and Electric and our representative, Kimberly Ketron. Kimberly?
Thank you, Lord. Good morning. Let me see, is this one? Good morning. Thank you for having us this morning. We're happy to be here and present on our net metering programs. I wanted to also introduce Adriana Magallanes. She's one of our subject matter experts. And then Bertha Bloss is handing out some PowerPoint presentations in the back, but she's the one that you will be reaching out to in the future, probably asking for some data that Renewable's going to talk about a little bit this morning. There's a few options regarding net metering, and I'm going to talk about a piece of that this morning. So it's a two-way connection between a renewable source at home or a business that allows excess generation to flow to the electric grid. Any SDG&E residential or commercial customer who generates some of their electricity with renewable energy source is eligible to participate in this program. The electricity generating system must be fueled by solar, wind, or a different renewable source that is eligible for the program itself. The generating system must comply with SDG&E's rules and regulations, so you must follow the rules and our tariffs, if you will. There's a state mandated cap on NEM in the rules and regulations with systems connected before the NEM cap was met are slightly different than the rules for the customers that connected afterwards. So July 1st, there was that's when we mandated. So anybody that was in the program was capped at that time and grandfathered in, where Adriana's going to talk about the other options and what you qualify moving forward as of that effective date.
Oh, it's okay. I have some. Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Adriana Magallanes, and I serve somewhat as a subject matter expert. My background is in billing. Before I joined Kim and Bertha, I spent 12 years in our billing department. Okay, thank you. So as Kim had mentioned, effective July 1st, 2016, we have reached our NEM cap. So now anyone who is coming in for a new application would be under schedule net energy metering successor tariff, so NEM-ST. You may know it as NEM 2.0. We'd like to get everyone used to referring to it as net energy metering successor tariff. That's how it's going to read on our tariff on our website, okay? One difference with NEM-ST is that customers with eligible systems that are 1 megawatt or smaller will now be charged a fee for interconnection. That fee is $132. So anyone under Schedule NEM did not have that interconnection fee at that time. The other difference for our NEM-ST customers is how our non-bypassable charges are calculated. Prior to July 1st, and again, any customer billing under Schedule NEM, their non-bypassable charges are based on their netted kilowatt hours delivered to SDG&E. Under NEM-ST, the non-bypassable charges are now going to be based on the total kilowatt hours, so prior to the netting, okay? Those non-bypassable charges include public purpose program charges, nuclear decommissioning charges, competition transition charge, and the DWR revenue adjustment. For those who are not aware, generation credits cannot be applied towards these non-bypassable charges along with other charges. For those who are currently billing under Schedule NEM, if they choose to increase or upgrade their NEM system size by more than 1 kilowatt hour or 10%, they'll be upgraded then into NEM-ST. Okay, so then the interconnection fee will apply, and also the new calculated non-bypassable charges will apply. Okay. For our NEM customers, all NEM customers, you qualify for the net surplus compensation. Maybe you know it as our Assembly Bill 920. I want to say it passed sometime in 2010, where our customers no longer lose on their excess generation credits. They are now compensated for that excess generation. And I apologize if I'm shuffling through paper. I just want to make sure I'm providing all the information to you. So that rate, you'll see it's available, it's a monthly rate, and it's available on our website. And you'll see that it might fluctuate. And the reason why it fluctuates is because that rate is based on a rolling 12-month average spot market price. So our customers are paid out based on the wholesale rate. Okay, thank you. Based on our wholesale rate. So we'll take that excess generation, that kilowatt hour value, and multiply that by our wholesale rate. And that is what credit is provided under the net surplus compensation. Okay. So we also wanted to provide just a high-level information on some programs that we offer that we feel may benefit you all. One of them is our virtual net metering program. You may see that in our tariff as Schedule NEM-VST. This program it applies for multiple meters under the same location for the purpose of sharing the generation to other accounts or other meters. Okay, this specific program does require that a net generation output meter is installed, and those charges or those charges can vary between $900 and $3,000. There are setup fees involved in this program for virtual net metering. There is a $25 fee for each account, for each benefiting account, but it will not exceed $500. So if you have more than 20 accounts under this program, those over the 20 will not be charged. Under this program, our customers will tell us the percentage, how they want their generation allocated to those benefiting accounts, and that will be provided while they apply. There is a form that they'll be providing to us indicating how they want that generation allocated. Customers are allowed to change their allocations for free within the year, and each additional change is $7.50 per benefiting account that is being updated. This program is for residential and commercial customers. Meters do not need to be in the same customer name, and benefiting accounts do not need to bill on the same rate schedule. Our other program that's somewhat new is NEM aggregation. You'll see that under Schedule NEM-ST, and within that schedule, it's in Special Condition 7 that provides verbiage for NEM aggregation. This program allows for multiple meters in the same customer name on adjacent properties to share the generation. This program allows customers two different billing methods. So you can either use the billing method, that's what it's going to show on the form, or the generation output method. So as I had mentioned under Schedule for the virtual net metering, with the net generation output meter, there are those fees that range between $900 and $3,000. For the billing account method, a net generation output meter is not required to be installed. Again, there are a set of fees under this program as well. It's $25 for each benefiting account, same as virtual net metering, not to exceed $500. There is $5 per meter change per month for requiring for special handling. So there is a monthly $5 fee for each benefiting account. Under this program, customers do not qualify to receive the net surplus compensation, or also referred to as the AB 920 credit. And I may not have mentioned, under virtual net metering, customers do qualify for the net surplus compensation. And again, on this one, benefiting customers do not need to bill on the same rate. Now, one of the difference with this program, comparing it to the virtual net metering, is customers will not provide us with their allocated percentages. Instead, the monthly allocation is determined per our CPUC's bill credit methodology. That's one of the main difference, and that covers the two NEM programs that we feel may benefit you all. And then I'll hand it back over to Kimmy.
So I was just going to give you a high overview of, most of you are currently on our ALTOU time of use rate. So once you install your solar systems, if you will, then there's an optional rate, which is DGR, distributed generation rate. And this rate would benefit a customer that uses high demand but low usage. So if you see across the slide, your basic monthly fees are the same. Your demand charges on the DGR are significantly less, but then your kilowatt hours are going to be higher on DGR versus where you are today. So that's where the benefit comes in. The demand charges are a lot less, but your kilowatt hours are more. So if, which I think a lot of you are facing high demand charges because of, say for instance, you have Sunday masses and you may be quiet, let's say all summer when your schools and the parishes are not very active, but then here comes Sunday and you're turning on your AC and your lighting and everything. So that's telling SDG&E, I didn't really need much service during the week, but then when you turned everything on, that set a demand, the demand that you're saying you're going to need all month. So that's where you're going to benefit in getting those demand charges down on your bill, on your monthly bills. Does anyone have any questions regarding the programs that we presented? Yes.
Is it just ALTOU or DGR? Or is it be a combination?
So John's asking, is this the only, is it just ALTOU versus DGR? No, you could be on a demand response rate component that you can also, so if anybody's on critical peak pricing, which you're reducing your use during a critical peak event, then you're also able to go to DGR. And we're happy to help with some analysis if you'd like to see what that benefit looks like.
I guess I'm confused because I've got a solar system in place, but the rate right on my bill says time of use DGR commercial.
So you're already on DGR, John?
Well, that's what I mean. It says time of use dash DGR. So is it a combination of both, or is that what DGR is? It's going to show up here as ATL?
It's exactly what, it's a combination.
But I thought I would want to be on DGR and not on ALTOU.
Bertha?
You are on DGR, it's just all our rates are on time of use.
Okay.
So you are on DGR only,
Okay.
you cannot be on ALTOU and DGR. So you can-
Could you repeat that?
So all of the component, you're all on a time of use rate with the DGR as well. Yes, Father Jay? I'm learning my names.
So, I'm kind of confused here. So, is this when we go to the solar?
Yes, you would be-
Select which one between the two we choose?
Right, so we can run an analysis and see
Oh, you
what
run
does
it.
your history look like
Okay.
today based on what the size of your system is?
Okay.
And
Then
if you're gonna
recommend-
offset
okay.
off the grid versus on the grid? So do you know the information so then they can be prepared?
Well, the thing
When
is
we
that
do
we
those
can run an
analysis?
analysis. So if you go to solar and you send me a request saying, I want a rate analysis. I
Bertha,
can
she
run-
might,
Come up, talk to the mic.
I hate
we're very mic shy, can you tell?
Okay, so if you go solar, then you send me a request and I can run an analysis for you comparing the DGR, which usually a person on solar benefits because they have lower usage, higher demand. And then I'll run it against an ALTOU account because that's what most of your large accounts are on, an ALTOU. The only thing is that we will be using 12 months of your history, which is not going to be as accurate because you didn't have solar those previous 12 months. We kind of work with the numbers a little bit, so we are close to what would benefit either ALTOU or DGR, and most of you on solar will benefit from DGR. If you don't, we will let you know that you will not benefit. And it's always good a year later, once you've had your solar, to request that analysis again, and we'll be more than happy to run it again, just so it's more accurate numbers.
Kimberly, could you address how often you can switch those different rates you were talking about earlier, the aggregation?
Annual. So Mark had a question, how often can you switch your rates? Those would be on an annual basis. So it's usually, it is done on your next redate, so it would be a year from that redate that you would have the option of, say you took the solar system down and then to go back to time of use.
The one exception to that is if changes are made to operations, then that might allow you to switch your rate in the middle of the year.
Right, so if, like, maybe they had it on a parking garage and somebody plowed through the parking garage, then we could put them back on time of use and remove you from the DGR rate. And this is just a quick shout out on our new SDG&E Business Energy Advisory Tool. I would highly recommend that you all go back and follow these instructions, and it's a simple sign-in, and then you will be able to, and I think would be worth your while before you install your solar to then you can get online and see what your energy looks like now, when you're peaking, when is the non-coincident demands coming in, when was your summer on-peak demand. So then I think as you work with renewable on sizing the system or your third party, the bakers or whoever you're choosing, that you're able to size that correctly, if you will, for better words. But, and if you need any assistance, I think when Mark, are you going to send out the PowerPoint? I'll include my contact information, but there's cards up there as well. I'm happy to come out to the schools and visit with you or the churches or help you sign up over the phone. Yes.
I have a question with regards to this. I have 3 separate facilities: parish, school, and a social outreach building. Would I have to run one of these for each of those locations? The energy advisor. They're separately metered.
Right. Yes, I believe you do.
Okay.
But if you take my card and contact me, I can work through this with you.
Okay.
Because also, when you sign in, they're going to ask you questions about those 3 separate buildings, and they're going to give you some recommendations on some energy efficient ideas and measures that you can implement, which would be beneficial prior to the installation of solar so that you can reduce your use. I had one more thought, but now I've lost. Oh, but then my services, if anybody would like for me to come out and meet with them, talk about your facility, walk through the facility, make any recommendations, talk to you about the tools and services some more, I'm happy to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly.
So I'm going to talk about the benefits of the program. Many of you might have heard this before, but I'll just kind of reiterate. By doing the program with Renewall and TreeTech Americas, as opposed to just opening your doors to 100 different solar contractors that are out there and available to put solar in, this reduces the time that your facility is going to have to deal with sorting out the different solar proposals. It ensures the best pricing because we have competitive pricing on an apples-to-apples comparison basis. It provides a funding mechanism that meets our loan covenants. The diocese has loan covenants, and so you can't just go out as a parish or school and borrow money or sign a lease because that would be a violation of our loan covenants. And it enables no money out of your own pocket to install the solar facility, and it allows for immediate energy savings. So you start saving day one with this new system. So the project developer is Renewall. The project funder is TreeTech Americas. Then we have 3 approved solar contractors: Baker Electric Solar, Sullivan Solar Power, and Stellar Solar. But sometimes parishes prefer their own provider, their own solar contractor. So if that's the case, if you know of a solar contractor that you want to install your system, you can ask that they get qualified under this program, and they will be vetted, and if they're qualified, then yes, they can install the solar system at your parish or school. Sometimes when a parish or school has brought us a contractor that they want to use, and we start this vetting process, the contractor just disappears. So I think it's a good thing that we have this vetting process, because that's kind of a red flag that they don't want to answer questions about, their insurance or their bonding agency or whatever the issue may be, or their experience in installing commercial systems. So I'm going to turn it over now to Mike Barth, who's the CEO of Renewall, with the rest of the presentation. Thank you.
It's just a pleasure to be here. In fact, it's sort of a privilege to be here. This is our second workshop that we've done with the San Diego Diocese for the parishes. We'll talk a little bit today about some of the projects that are already completed that will be turned on in the next couple of weeks, and projects that are moving forward. Today, from our team, we also have David Burney, who is our VP of Finance. Dave is a graduate of the entire Catholic school system. grade school to college. Both of my children are grade school and then went into public high school. So it is a privilege, again, to be here and to be able to offer this. So what I'm going to kind of do is we're sort of going to test drive what it would look like for a parish to walk through the process of solar from today through the end of construction, including financing. So I'm going to take first part of this. David Trepic, president of TreeTech Americas, will talk about the financing part of this. So we're going to go through the goals and methodology of what the project will look like, that entire development process, the construction process, and then the next steps to go through to start this. So again, our goals, really we want to make it easy. Solar projects are incredibly complex. As you just saw, the wonderful presentation from SDG&E, but just that one part of thinking about where your utility bill is going to be is incredibly complex, let alone talking about scoping and construction and so on. So our whole goal is to make this project as easy as we can for the facilities to implement. If you want to do it for no out-of-pocket, we can do it for no out-of-pocket. We ensure best pricing, so you know you're getting competitive pricing, because we're going to do a competitive process on each of your projects. We're going to use the energy savings to finance the project, okay? We're going to reduce your electric utility bill, and we're going to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We're going to do a Q&A at the end, but if you have a question that just can't wait and you want to address it, please just let me know and we will stop for questions. So we have multiplayers on the team. Renew All Works, we identify your solar energy generation opportunities. The solar contractors will conduct the site review, and we'll have multiple contractors come to your site. We'll talk a little bit about how that's going to work. There's going to be a creation of project proposals from those contractors. We're going to review those proposals with the parish to understand what's happening. If you want us to make recommendations, we're happy to make recommendations. TreeTech Americas can handle the project funding, and they're going to handle the commissioning of the solar system. That includes the interfacing with SDG&E to make sure that you are on the correct tariff rate schedule. Okay, so there's lots of math that's going to be done to make sure that that occurs, so that interface will happen on your behalf. And then TreeTech Americas will own and maintain the system for the parish. So I'm going to drill down a little bit into each of these categories. If I'm moving too fast, just let me know. I got a lot of ground to cover, but I don't want to make this an all-day affair. And I could talk about this for 3 days up here and still not be winded. So, so what we do, we work with the facilities, the parish team, and SDG&E to collect your utility bills for the last year, right? We get the paper copy and we get the electronic 15-minute interval copy. So we get tremendous amount of data. Basically, we get your meter reading for every 15 minutes for the past 365 days. Okay? We then put that into multiple pieces of software to analyze those utility bills. Okay? So we know we're able to diagram exactly where your power usage is and what's causing your demand charges. If you think about your utility bill, you've got multiple different charges, and it's not necessarily how much power you're using, it's how much power you're using when that affects your bill, right? So that's part of the thing that we take a look at, is we're going to then do a analysis to talk about optimizing solar, okay, for that bill, so you save the most amount of money that you can possibly save. We also incorporate, if you've got any planned energy efficiency project, we incorporate that into our analysis, right? So if that project hasn't happened yet, but you have a scope of work from that project, we can incorporate that in. If it's going to be, okay, we're going to do a plan and everybody's going to go through an energy efficiency program, again, we can incorporate that into the math, right? We take all of that and we provide those assessments to the solar contractors. So then we coordinate the site visit with the contractor to the parish. right? So we'll work with your facilities team to help set those appointments. You can handle them a couple of different ways. It's really up to the facility of how you want to handle the contractor coming on premises. We're going to send probably 3 contractors at a minimum. If you've got a contractor that you want, it's a member of the parish and you want them to participate, great. We'll do a vetting process and get them involved also. So we help coordinate that. The parish team does the site walk. Okay, really what we're doing on the site walk is we're going to identify where we can't put solar. Okay, that's really part of this, right? So we're going to identify how you operate your facility and where solar would be a problem to put. Okay, so we're basically eliminating those issues right off. Okay, identify any items that would impact solar system placement, and then they'll start looking at what they have to do to put the solar on, any construction issues and so on. They're going to review with your team any planned energy conservation measures, or could identify some energy conservation measures that you ought to undertake. Okay? They'll review that utility bill a little bit with the facilities team. So for instance, we understand, right, Sunday morning, all the power comes up. Okay? During school, all the power comes up. What is happening on Wednesday night, right? So the bill shows that there is a spike on Wednesday nights. Okay, now we understand, okay, there's a meeting that's happening every Wednesday. Or in the middle of the night, there's a spike. Turns out your air conditioning system somehow is coming on, right? We see all these weird things in the bills, so we try to understand from the facilities operation team why these anomalies in the bill so we can address that also, okay? So, contractors go back and they create a solar proposal. Okay. They then submit that solar proposal to us. All right. So we're going to take a look at it and we are going to analyze it compared to what we saw within your bills. Okay. We did a lot of solar contractor vetting to get to the 3 solar contractors that we are using in this program. Okay. Top-notch solar contractors who know what they are doing. We work all over the state of California. We work in the western U.S., and we're working with building owners. Typically, we're on the building owner side. We are not a contractor. We don't build solar systems, right? We develop, bring in a contractor to build. We see things like a contractor submits a solar proposal that offsets 120% of your bill, 150% of your bill. Right? That is not helpful for the building owner. You don't need to offset, buy a solar system that offsets 150% of your bill, right? We're looking for solar systems that optimize your reduction in energy and savings, not having you pay for a solar system that's bigger than you need, right? So we take a look at that solar proposal to make sure that it, against the analysis that we've done, that it's optimizing what you need, okay? So we may find a couple anomalies in that. We go back and forth with the contractor. We get a better proposal. We then send that to TreeTech, who also reviews it. They put together a finance package for it. Then we send that finance package and that scope of work, that proposal, to the parish team, and then we review it with the parish, so that you understand what's being submitted by the contractors, what they're proposing. Typically, we don't see everybody submitting the exact same proposal. One contractor says, hey, I think if we did it this way, it's going to produce a little bit more energy. One says, hey, if we do it this way, I think it's going to cost a little bit less. Okay? So we walk through those with you. Your facilities team says, hey, these are great, but we said we really wanted a carport. I don't see the carport on here. Great, we'll make whatever changes there are in the proposal, whatever changes there needs to be in the finance term sheet. Bring back to the parish. Parish says, hey, we really like this proposal from this particular contractor. Let's move forward with that proposal. Parish signs a finance term sheet, and we go into the funding process. For the funding process, I want to introduce Dave Trepic from TreeTech Americas, who's been handling funding for the parishes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks again for having us. We're really happy to be here. Today I'm joined by Howie Reed, our Senior Vice President of Operations. So to the extent that your parishes or your schools move forward, Howie's team will be helping coordinate documents, and we'll be working with the construction teams to make sure that everything runs smoothly. Just wanted to give you a little background on TreeTech Americas very briefly. TreeTech Americas is the North American affiliate of TreeTech Group, which is based in Basel, Switzerland. And TreeTech's been in business for 30 years. And we're in 15 countries throughout Europe, South Africa, Brazil, and Chile. And about 3 years ago, we opened our North American office here in San Diego. So it's great to be able to work with the diocese in San Diego and provide the financing. It's a very important process for us and a very important group for us to work on. TreeTech has a tremendous amount of experience in solar. Over the last 30 years, we've deployed about 1 gigawatt of solar worldwide. To put it in terms, it's equivalent to about 200,000 homes, or maybe 20,000 commercial buildings. So just to give you an idea of how much solar has been deployed. The process here, as Mike has laid out, when we receive the proposal from the contractors, we're reviewing it in addition to what Renewal has, and then we're looking at what is the optimal finance package for the parish or the school. Essentially, our program is a PPA, which is a power purchase agreement, which means all you're doing is buying the power from us as you do from SDG&E, except this power is less expensive and it is green. So what's nice about the program is that there is zero out-of-pocket, no money down, so we're taking care of everything. We are overseeing the construction, we're paying for the construction of the facility, and as a result, when your system gets turned on, you're saving money from day one, but you haven't spent any money to get the system. Throughout the course of the PPA, the power purchase agreement, which is generally a 25-year agreement, your electricity price will be lower than the price you would be paying from the utility. In addition to that, because we're the system owner, we're taking care of everything. We're maintaining it. We're making sure it's producing the amount of solar that we said it was. If there's any warranty claims, we're handling it. It should be completely worry-free for you. And just like Mike said, if there's any questions in between, please feel free to interrupt, and I'm happy to answer them. So again, this is a power purchase agreement. So as I said, we take care of everything on the construction and payment of the system, and we warranty and maintain it. There's a couple options with the PPA. Some customers prefer to lock in their rate at a fixed amount and have it be the same for 25 years. In that regard, you usually start with a higher rate. Some customers prefer more savings up front. And so what we do is we lower the rate a little bit and we put a small escalator on it, somewhere maybe around 2% a year. And so that allows for increased cost to run the system over 25 years and potential degradation of the system. So the parish can look at it and say, you know what, we really are focused on saving over the next 5 years. We want our rate to start lower, or we're more concerned about a 25-year savings. We don't mind our rate starting a little higher, but it's going to be flat for 25 years. We are also introducing some new products that will allow parishes and schools with some money to sort of co-invest into the system and to reduce their cost. And we'll be introducing those programs over the next month or so. So it's really unique for parishes that actually have money on hand that they'd like to invest in the system while still taking advantage of the tax benefits that we're able to do as a for-profit company, and the schools and the parishes and the diocese cannot take advantage of. I think it's an important point to note that generally speaking, in the solar world and in PPAs, it's very difficult to finance churches. Part of that reason is that there's usually single-use facilities. Also, they're nonprofits, and maybe a lot of their revenue is generated from donations, so it's not very consistent. So from the finance world, it's difficult to do, but we created this unique program with Mark's help, and the diocese has said this is an important initiative for the San Diego community and for the diocese in general. And I think, the Pope has come down and said that, green energy and renewables are a very important initiative that we want to support. So the diocese, in their capacity as sort of overseeing the churches and the schools, has said we're going to stand behind the PPAs, and we're going to allow our strength financially to stand behind the PPAs, which now allows us to offer a PPA to every school and parish, regardless of size, which is a very unique situation and gives us a nice program that we can put on display for maybe other community parishes and dioceses. So, back to the process. Once the contractor is selected and the documents are signed, then we, as the owner of the system, TreeTech, enters into a contract with the solar contractor. It's called an EPC agreement. So we will sign the agreement. We're responsible for paying them. We're responsible for managing them. Once that agreement's in place, permits are obtained after drawings are done, and then construction begins with the solar contractor. During the course of the project, Howie's team will be supervising the construction of the project, and then when the work is complete, we do our own independent engineering inspections. When it's done and approved, we turn on the system and the savings begins. Part of that process is to obviously make sure the system's working properly, that it's built safely, that it's built to specifications. We work with SDG&E to get the interconnection done properly, and then we start selling you power, green energy. So that is essentially the steps. At this point, I don't know if there's any questions with respect to the PPA or what TreeTech's involvement, but I'm happy to answer. Sure.
This alternative program that will come out within a month will not be a PPA, but a system that we buy and own ourselves?
It's a PPA, but it's what we call it is a deposit-based PPA, and the reason we didn't put it up here yet is because we're just doing the pilot programs right now, and we think within about 4 to 5 weeks we'll be able to offer it to our customers, because we took 3 or 4 pilot programs to make sure that everything was in place, and they're going very well. So it looks like we'll be rolling it out. But what happens is you're essentially prepaying for some electricity for a period of time, and then you have a small little tiny rate, and then after 5 years, because it's a little bit complicated with solar and the tax credits, but you can't change system owners in the first 5 years. Otherwise, the IRS says, oh, we'll come back and take that tax credit back. So after 5 years, you have a balance left on your deposit, and then there's a calculation done, and for a relatively small amount, you can buy the system and own it at that point. And at that point, you'd be responsible for maintaining it and warranting it and the like. But for the first 5 or 6 years, which is also the most critical time from a operations and maintenance standpoint and from a failure standpoint, even though they're very, very reliable, if there is something that's going to go wrong, it's going to happen in that first 5 years generally. So you're sort of hedged and protected against that.
So what is the rate of saving if you go with the PPA? Say, for example, if the parish pays 8,000 electricity bill, if you go with the PPA, what is the saving to the parish?
Sure. So the question was, what's the savings? And it really depends on the individual parish and the size of the system and what they're paying now and what their demand charges are. But we have a minimum savings requirement of 10% in year one. From an underwriting standpoint, we want to ensure that the parish is saving at least 10% in the first year. But what's nice about a PPA, especially if you go with one without an escalator, is that over the last 30 years, and there's different sources on this, so I'll be conservative, in the last 30 years in California, the utility rates have gone up on average by about 5% a year. In the last 10 years, it's closer to maybe 10%, depending on where you are. So if you take a PPA with a zero escalator, you're flat for 25 years, but SDG&E or other utilities may be going up by 5 or 6% a year. So you're capturing all that savings additional. So year one, you may save 10%, but over the course of 25 years, that would be $800 if it's $8,000, but over 25 years, you might save $150,000 against not having solar, but you didn't pay anything for it. Any other questions? Sure.
What's the degradation of the PV itself? Is it going to be 100% efficient for 25 years, or is there a decrease in efficiency, and how does that impact the economics of it?
Sure. So when we do our calculations, we allow for the degradation that the panel manufacturer warranties. And so the panel is warranted for 25 years for power output, but it degrades at 0.5% a year. So by the time you get to year 25, it would be at 80%. Okay, but we allow for that in our calculations and how much you're going to save over the time. That's also another reason why it's a little bit more efficient to have a small escalator, because the production's dropping a little bit. So from our standpoint, we're selling a little less power every year. So part of having the escalator is flattening that out.
But Dave, you're guaranteeing the power output, that they're going to get the power output, as you're the owner of the system. So you're guaranteeing the power output that they're going to get for the life of that 25
Correct.
years. So
part of the PPA, there's a sister document called the limited warranty that comes with it, and the warranty provides for a minimum output on an annual basis and a mechanism to true it up if for some reason the system doesn't. Now, there's 35-year weather models that predict what the production is going to be out of the system, but if something happens, if we have a really rainy season or maybe the system is struggling, there's a mechanism, what we call a true-up, so that you'll never be paying for energy you didn't receive, and if you're not receiving the amount of energy we promise, you'll be compensated for that as well. Sure.
Do we know how many parishes are buying their system outright versus how many are going with the PPA and how they made that decision?
Yeah, so I would say, I think Mike has better numbers on it, but I would say about 10% are buying them out. We have a different perspective. Obviously, this is our business, but we also believe strongly that a nonprofit should not be paying cash for a system. Irrespective of how much cash they have, it seems there's a better use for that money potentially in the community or in the school or whatever it might be, but some just say, hey, we got a big donation, or someone just wants to pay for it. And obviously, you get it, you just don't get to take advantage of any of the tax benefits, and you have to pay to take care of it for 25 years. Anything else?
David, could you talk about the buyout options in the contract?
Sure. So,
May I just quickly make one comment?
Sure.
That customers are clear. You'll still be required to pay transmission and distribution charges from SCG. I just wanted to clarify.
yeah, absolutely. Okay, thank you, yeah. And again, all of the charges, our software now has net metering ST in the software, so we know not only what the new charges are going to be, including the fixed charges that are non-bypassable, but we know how the new net metering charges affect your bill. Our system will recommend the right system size based on these. And the beauty of doing through our program is, as you heard, there's a lot of nuances, but we take care of all of that. You don't have to worry about which one to choose and what's the fee. We're going to say to you, here's your bill before solar, here's your bill after solar, and this is what you can expect to save over the next 25 years. And by the way, you don't have to worry about it. You're just going to buy the energy. And then on the buyout. So the contract provides for a buyout for twice during the system length of the program. And what happens is if the parish or the school decides that, hey, we've had this thing for X amount of time, we have some cash available, we've already taken advantage of the tax benefits, we'd like to buy the system, then you exercise your option to buy. A fair market analysis of the system is done at the time, and if you're comfortable with the fair market analysis, that's how much the buyout is, it becomes your system. And the fair market value is determined, there's a whole description in the contract, but essentially what happens is the system, depending on when it's exercised, how much useful life is left on the system, what are current electricity rates, what's the shape of the system, and those are computed into a model by an independent appraiser, and there's a value put to the system, and if that value makes sense from a return standpoint for the school or parish, they're more than welcome to buy it out at that time.
What are the fair market values running today for a system that's 6 or 10 years old?
Yeah, so we're seeing I think it's important to note, just like very few companies or churches actually buy their system, very few people buy out a system. But sometimes it happens, and again, there's not a tremendous amount of data for a 10-year value because commercial PPAs have really, over the last 5 years, taken off. And I just make a quick example. When I started in solar in 2006, on the residential side, 0% of solar systems were owned by a third party or in a PPA or a lease. Today in California, it's like 92%. So over 10 years, it's sort of gone like this in a hockey stick. I would say on the commercial side, 10 years ago, 5 or 6% maybe were owned by a third party. 5 years ago, maybe 10, but now it's closer to 50, and it's on its way up. And the reason it's increasing is because, just like on the residential side, the tools and the programs were put in place to sort of systematize solar financing for commercial systems. The big utility ones have been doing that for years and years because, it's 10 megawatts, it's huge, it's, $20, $30 million, it's easy to finance that. But on the commercial side, there's not a lot of history, but we're seeing, numbers come in the 50, 60% range after about 6 or 7 years. Yes?
If the load is based on 25 years, say at year 10, the load demand either goes up or goes down, what does that mean?
Well, that's a good question. He asked what happens if your usage changes, what you're really asking. So we try to inquire about that. We ask a lot of questions about, are you putting on an addition? Do you plan on adding a summer school? Do you plan on, doing something that's going to increase your load? And if the answers are no, we're going to size the system based on what your current situation is. To the extent that you add load, that just wouldn't be covered as much by the solar. So if your bill is $10,000 a month and solar is going to cover 90% of that, and then so now your bill is going to be $1,000 a month this is without the PPA, and then all of a sudden your bill goes to $12,000, well, your bill is going to be $3,000 as opposed to $1,000. And on the PPA side, we could add to the system and increase the system size and have an addendum to the contract. If let's say you did put a big addition on and you wanted it to be covered, but generally speaking, it would have to be a pretty significant increase in usage to warrant going through that. Yes?
Could I have you clarify what were the timeframes of the buyout?
In the contract, it's written at 10 years and 25 years. However, anytime after 6 years, you can request it. It's just not written into the contract.
So, let's clarify that. You said twice 10 years and 25 years. What about the more flexibility of the parishes?
Yeah, so legally from the IRS, for us to be able to do this program and have it not be what they call a disguised sale. So if you have a bunch of buyouts throughout, then the IRS says you're really just financing the system for them. You're not providing a service. And what we're doing is selling you power. And that's how it's a very complicated IRS rule, but that's how we're able to monetize the tax benefits. So the minute we put in more than 2 buyouts, it then invalidates it as a service contract. However, it does not prevent you from saying any time after year 5 for you to send a letter and says, we would like to buy out the system, we'll pay for a fair market value appraisal, and we say, great, if you agree on it, you can buy it.
David, for those who don't know, could you explain the solar tax credit for how it works in a PPA compared to a nonprofit paying cash?
Sure. So the tax credit is called the ITC, or the investment tax credit. And it's really two parts. So there's the tax credit part, which is equivalent to the 30% of the system cost, and that's a credit, but it's only available to for-profit entities. So as a church or a parish or a school, you're not entitled to that. Additionally, there's depreciation on the system, and there's another benefit to solar, what we call accelerated depreciation. So normally you would depreciate an asset over its useful life, in this case 30 years. But the IRS, in an incentive to build more solar, has said you can depreciate that asset over 5 years. So those two benefits, and that's why they call it third-party ownership, because we're a third party unrelated that owns the system that's selling you power, and as a commercial entity, we can take advantage of those tax breaks. So what we do is in our model, we say, okay, this is how much the system's going to cost, this is the power we're going to sell, and at this rate, and here's the tax credit and the depreciation, and then as long as it hits our hurdle rate of return, it's a project that works. On the flip side, if we have a $200,000 system, then you're just paying for that system. There are no tax benefits associated with it. Additionally, so you're just paying for the system, full price, so to speak, full retail, and then no benefits on the tax. And oh, by the way, over 25 years, you have to take care of it. Inverter warranties run 10 years. The system's going to be there for 25, 30, 35 years, so you're going to have to replace inverters starting after year 10. Panels do have to get replaced. There's switchgear there's things that happen to electrical systems. So those are all things that would be the responsibility of the system owner.
So you're passing back in the PPA rate, as a third-party entity, you get tax credit, and some of that tax credit then flows back to the customer through a reduced PPA compared to a full price.
Exactly. We say that we're allowing the nonprofit to monetize some of that tax benefit that they otherwise wouldn't have.
You have a list of prerequisites for even before considering putting something on the roof. I mean, what condition should things be in? Should roofing be considered if it hasn't been roofed for a long time? Those kinds of things, beams, all that, considering the age of the building after this stuff. Is that all part of the review process?
It is, yeah. Yes. Yeah, the question was, is there like a prerequisite list to allow solar to be put on a particular building? And the answer is yes. We have a process to go through and analyze the structure of the building, the condition of the roof. We've had plenty of our first round of parishes and schools need new roofs, and that is dealt with right through the process. It's usually coordinated by the solar contractor, which is another nice benefit. From a structural standpoint, once the solar contractor is in place, they will be doing, a full structural analysis to make sure that the system the roof can bear the system, or if it's in a carport, that the soils are in good shape to allow for it.
So in the PPA, can you incorporate the price of the roof?
Sometimes the roof replacement can be rolled into the solar contract. It's really parish or school specific, but it's an option.
And it has happened in this process?
It has, yeah. Yes.
The liability of the equipment, if it gets damaged for any reason, storm, earthquake, fire, how does that work?
We fully insure the system as the system owner. The only insurance you're required to have is liability from, with respect to somebody from the parish going up there and doing something they're not supposed to. But it's not additional cost to the parish. It's just, as the system owner, we say to you, we need to be added to your insurance policy in case something unrelated to the system happens, and we're added. But from a liability and, like you said, storm damage or whatever, we take care of all that insurance. Yes?
Do you whether to go with a carport or the roof, do you guys look at both solutions and see which one's the better cost-wise, or do you, by default, you go with the roof and then?
Well, I mean, without fail, carports are more expensive than roof. So if there's not enough roof, or the roof is in not a condition and there's not a desire to replace the roof, or if there's a lot of shading on the roof or whatever it might be, then we will look at the carports. Or if you guys just say, we want carports, that's what we want, then we'll design it with carports. So to give you an example, if let's say right now your average rate is 25 cents a kilowatt hour, and if you did it on the roof, you might be paying 21 cents. If you do it in carports, you might be paying 22.5 cents. You're still saving money, but not as much because it costs more.
One of the things I sort of failed to do was talk just for a moment about renewal. So we act as a owner's rep. We are not a finance company. We are not a contractor. Okay, what we do, again, is develop a project. We've been around since about 6 years now. I've been doing owner's rep on construction since 1996. And being in the solar field, one of the things that I really like about PPAs is, and this is a fun thing that I like to do in an audience, to say, how many people have had any kind of a construction project on their house, on their building? Can I see a show of hands for just a second? Great. How many people, so just hold your hand up for a second. And I want you to leave your hand up if that construction project went exactly as planned. Leave your hand up if that construction project went exactly as planned. We have one. All right. So unless you have somebody on staff who works with contractors and oversees contractors, there's a great commercial on TV right now where the commercial people are telling the truth, and the contractor says, great, I'm going to tear up your kitchen and I'm going to leave for 7 months. Okay, sort of the definition of a contractor. What I really like about PPAs is that the building owner doesn't have to take on the responsibility of overseeing the contractor, because the most difficult thing in solar is the contractor management, meeting your timeline, and then those first 5 years. And by having the tax capture, the depreciation capture, and having that passed back, it's just something that we really liked when we went into the solar field from other construction management that we were doing. It's really, I like it, and then I also like that the end of that time period, after you know it works, after somebody has taken all that risk, then you have the opportunity, if you want to pay cash, to purchase it. So, but in the proposal that you get, you see a cash price. So you've got a PPA rate, and you also have a cash price in there. So you do see the comparison and decide how you'd like to do that. So for next steps, there was a sign-in sheet that we will be following up on, so make sure you did sign up. There is a handout on the table that has that Renew All logo on it and has lots of contact information at the bottom, kind of just a one sheet. Looks like that. Okay. It's got our contact info. It's got Dave's contact info. Really be great to have the facility manager if you guys are interested in getting it scoped. Again, there's no cost to the parish. There's no cost to the diocese for this program. Each individual project is an individual project. So we would come out and begin, first we'd work with you and SDG&E to get your utility bills. I have to say, not only was that a great presentation, we work all over California, all over the western U.S. There is not a better set of reps for utility anywhere than what you guys have. I got to tell you, it's the easiest folks to work with and to get information that we have ever seen. And we work with every utility, I think, in California. For those of you in IID, this program doesn't, it's very difficult. IID right now does not have net metering. They also do have very low rates, so for small projects it is difficult to pencil. We are hoping that they come back with a net metering program at the beginning of the year. At their September meeting, they were going to take that on. What they did was they kind of went backwards and said, all right, we kind of discontinued our net metering program, but we will make it, we'll leave it in place for those who already have solar, who've already taken their permits, already in construction, basically. Those folks get it. Anybody else right now does not get it. Without net metering and IID, it's very difficult to make this pencil. incredibly difficult to make a pencil. So we've looked at 6 parishes. We've just sort of have them on hold at this point in time. So for anybody here at IID, we will talk to you afterwards. We'll talk about, we're doing some strategies, but we're hoping at the beginning of the year they will go into their net metering 2.0 or 3.0. Please.
We're not sure what you mean by on hold.
It-
Saying that metering is on hold from SDG.
No, IID. Yeah, so there are some parishes in the IID territory. No, you guys are great. We have not only do I have no complaints, I have nothing but praise. No, in IID, they discontinued their net metering program. They said it was fully subscribed. They were going to, in September, launch 2017, and they've passed on launching 2017 until they do some more stuff. So, we will follow up on the list, but if you also want to follow up and get moving, right now we have about 40 parishes in the program that we have gotten their utility bills, that we have scoped. We have 5 under construction, 2 that are finished that you saw some slides coming up. They get turned on this month. We have multiples that we are going back and forth on the scope, working with facilities. I think there's 12 of those, and 5 in permitting, I think is what we've got right now. So, and each of those, again, are saving money, and the folks with even gotten the roof replacements are saving money. Some folks have elected to go cash, and again, we can kind of walk through pros and cons of that, but once you do cash, you are taking full responsibility for everything, including replacement of parts that will wear out before your solar panels do. So we assist getting your utility data, and it's really kind of a one-on-one individual process geared towards how your parish wants to move forward with it. Okay, so if you don't have a facilities person, we work with folks in the office, and then our contractors, again, the pre-vetted contractors are incredibly professional. We'll work with you, answer incredible amount of questions, come out multiple times if need be, work with the city around tree issues, and we've worked, I think, through multiple different issues with the city at this point in time. And then we handle the contractors handle all your permitting also. And and David kind of make sure that process is stayed on top of. We've been very, by vetting these contractors and having pre-vetted contractors, we know that our contractor doesn't tear up and leave, right? It is a timed process where their scope includes getting this thing done at a time that does not disrupt your operations, right? It's really key for us. Please, we'll open up for questions.
Are these their employees, or are they subcontracting out?
Try that one more time.
Are the subcontractors you have there, are they their employees, people go out there to do the work, or do they subcontract out?
No, the contractors in the program are the ones doing the work. If they need a roof contractor, they will sub out. We've already got some chosen roof contractors. If the parish has a roof contractor that you like to work with, great. Work with your contractors. All right. Please.
I'm going to ask this one. Does it ever make sense to phase in a solar system in
Sure.
phases?
Sure.
How often is that?
Sure. Okay, so the question was, does it make sense to phase in solar systems? And I said, yes, it does sometimes make sense. The first one would be, let's say you've got 3 buildings, and you've got a 20-year roof on one of those buildings. Solar's going to be up there for 25 years. You want to not replace that roof at this particular moment. You know you're going to have to replace it in 10 years. You don't want to rip up the solar. So there's one reason to phase right there. 2, you've got older or younger trees, and you want to have an area that on your parking lot, say, okay, We know we've got this beautiful tree, but he's got Dutch elm disease, and we're going to wait for him to go naturally, and then we're going to do our parking lot. I've had one of those. I mean, this is from experience. That tree was going to go. They just wanted to give it a few more years, not just take it down, but no, they were doing it. So there are reasons to do it. Construction would be another one. So you're in the middle of new gym construction, right? You're going to wait to put solar on that gym until it's completed. You may even want to get 1 year of operation within that gym. So you've got new LED lights. You want to see what that bill is actually going to be, but you've got a piece of the facility that's been in operation 20 years. We know what that's going to be. So we do solar there. Typically, you won't phase solar on a single building, though, right? If you're going to do it on a building, you're going to do it on the building.
So that's the physical constraints, but the financial, does it degrade the decision by phasing?
You would have multiple PPAs in that case. You'd be paying multiple bills. So part of what we do is an analysis that tells you what makes the most sense. So you've got 3 meters. For instance, at a facility, we will take a look at each of those meters individually and tell you what makes sense on that meter. And then SDG also has a meter aggregation program so that if you've got 3 meters and meter 1 has your most use, but you also have a nice tile roof that we can't put solar on, but you've got space on the gym that uses less, we can put it on the gym and then feed the entire campus.
Yeah, and I would also add that when you're looking at the roof and the decision, should you replace it, part of the decision that we look at is, let's say there's 10 years left on the roof, but what is the savings you could have had for those 10 years? Does that pay for the roof to be done now? And so those discussions those things are looked at and discussed.
And when I launched this program about a year ago, we didn't know if the federal tax credits were going to get extended or not, because they were due to expire at the end of this year. We also didn't know what NEMST was going to look like, right? And we also knew that the utilities in California were not happy with the solar programs that we have, because guess what? They're losing money on them. The people that don't have solar are subsidizing the people that do have solar. So the tax credits aren't going to last forever. The utilities still aren't happy with solar customers because they're not paying their full share. So the longer you wait to do this, the clock is running on all of these things. So even though we've gotten an overtime here, I'll call it, because the tax credits were extended a few more years, and we have NEMST, these things aren't going to last forever. So now is a unique opportunity to get solar in with these incentives, and so that that these are figured into the economics of what they're doing with these PPA prices, and with your rates. They're not going to last. So just want that, figure that into your timing also.
Other questions? And we'll also stay after. I know we're coming up on time. Please.
You had mentioned that there was some alternative ideas coming up in the next couple of months. How is that going to be communicated?
He's talking about the pre.
Sure. So in your proposals that we start issuing on your term sheets, you'll see these options. So you'll see, here's if you were to pay cash, here's what it looks like. Here's a PPA if you wanted to do a little bit of a cash hybrid. That'll be in there, right? So it'll be, by the time we issue term sheets on this round to anybody here, after we've done the scope, it'll be available to you. So you'll see it. You'll see all your options.
And I think when you're filling out your information and level of interest, if you feel that you have cash available to pay towards the system, then maybe indicate that, and then we can incorporate that as part of the proposal.
Mark, is there any loan facilities if a parish wants to go, they not going to this PPA?
So the question is there a loan available from the diocese if you want to do this instead of doing a PPA? And yes, there is. Our loan requirements are that you put down at least 50%. So you have to have 50% of the cash value of the new purchase price of the solar system. And you have to have the financial ability to make the payments over a 5-year period. So we'll look at your financials. The interest rate's 4.5%. So it'll be a 4.5% interest rate loan over 5 years if you want to borrow money from the diocese.
4.5 over 5 years?
Yes.
All right, so we can put that option on the sheet. Yeah, so we'll actually add that option onto the sheet so you can do a comparison too. So somebody make sure that, Dave, that you got that in your, great. You guys keep numbers better than I do in your heads. There was a question back here, please.
Once the panels are installed, how long before they're up and running?
Sure. So the question was, after the panels are installed, how long up and running? Typically, the longest will be about 90 days. It could be as soon as 30 days. So what happens is you get a mechanical construction. Construction is completed. There are then inspections by the city for permits. There's inspections by the utility. There's inspections by Tree Tech to make sure that that contractor has met all of their provisions within the construction. After all of that is done, they'll be turned on. So the systems that we just saw here, they got final inspection this last week, Thursday?
Right.
Thursday. So probably by the next 10 days or so, those will be turned on. Yeah. Yeah, it'd be great if we could just turn them on, but that's lots of, yeah. So it could go out as far as 90 days. I do want to, Mark just mentioned an incredibly good point about timing. So Renewal, we work with multiple financiers. There was another type of funding available to religious institutions. It was called PACE. PACE did not work at the San Diego Diocese. ACLU, I got to say I'm a fan. However, they did sue State of California, and State of California, the PACE programs will no longer now do religious institutions. Houses of worship is how it's defined. So that is a funding mechanism that's no longer available. So what we've got is, because we, in a lot of the communities we work at, we work with houses of worship. We work with church schools, et cetera, because there's just not a lot of options. And now the big option was just taken off the table for us. So cash, loan, and PPA really are what's left at this point in time.
I think it goes to the point of how programs can change.
Yep.
It just
Instantaneous, right. That was just out of the blue. Nobody expected that actually to occur. Appreciate it very, very much.
I think let's thank you for coming today. Thank you all for coming today.